Hold on, we got a commercial that just randomly started. Y'all got 20 seconds. I got 10 seconds. Hold on, something's messed up. All right, get ready.
Now, we're talking sports. It's time for the Saturday Sports Countdown with Brett Pritchard, Randy Lee, and Luke Robinson. Auburn, Alabama, around the SEC, and around the nation. This is the Saturday Sports Countdown. To be a part of the program, call 256-234-6221. Now, let's join Brett, Randy, and Luke for the Saturday Sports Countdown.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Randy Lee alongside Luke Robinson this morning. 800-782-0108, 256-234-6221 is our phone number. Luke, not the most beautiful day outside here in the Lake Martin region, but it's warming up a little bit, and a lot going on in the area and a lot going on in the state of Alabama, especially with the high school basketball championships tipping off this next week.
Oh, can't wait for them. It's going to start on Monday this year instead of Tuesday, and so it's going to be Monday through Saturday, jam-packed, full of basketball. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Definitely is. And, Luke, if you're going to talk about college basketball today, and that'll be our prediction today, is Auburn and Kentucky taking on one another in basketball. Get your predictions in for that. Tiebreaker will be KT Harrell. Points scored. He'll have to have 60 for Auburn to have any chance.
I'll go ahead and put the first prediction in. Clubber Lane said it best. Prediction, pain.
Prediction is going to be pain, but for that to be the storyline and that to be part of one of the biggest basketball games, I actually saw a piece on ESPN just a minute ago, Luke, and it was what it would take for Auburn to pull off the upset. Can you give us what it would take for Auburn to pull this upset off?
Yeah, I think I can. I think that what's going to have to happen is Kentucky's locker room will have to be sucked into a vortex, and even then, Auburn is a 3.5-point dog.
Were you shocked at the game this middle of the week with Alabama, and does Anthony Grant hold on to his job due to this win? He moves to, 16-10 on the season. Yeah. They're close to 500 in conference. I don't know. Alabama looked pretty good Wednesday, though.
Well, yeah, they looked okay. They didn't really look pretty good. Auburn's not very good. I mean, that's the thing. Auburn gets oversold here because we're in an Auburn area. And so all people are going to say, well, I've seen Bowers play. He's pretty good. He is pretty good. And KT Harrell is pretty good. I mean, you can say he leads the conference in scoring. That means he's great. No, he's not great. He's a pretty good player. He just happens to be the best scorer on a team that has no scorers. So the Auburn is not very good. This is not a great win. And Alabama's overselling this win. I mean, that's what's scaring me is that Alabama's looking at this like, oh, hell, man, he can turn this around. Now, I'll say this, Randy, and I talked about it on Sports Call earlier this week. Anthony Grant's career is summed up with this win, if you ask me. It's really summed up from the Vandy loss at home to the Auburn win on the road because he gets a technical on what was just a bad, horrible, horrific call. SEC officiating has been so bad this year. I mean, I hate talking about officiating, but it's been so bad. They need a whole new group. Just get rid of every one of them and start over. And there's a terrible call. Anthony Grant finally gets a tech. I've seen a lot of bad calls this year. Anthony Grant's kind of like, well, I will get them next time. And I don't like that. I mean, as a coach, you have to get in the official's grill and let him know that's a bad call and I want the next one. And Anthony Grant finally did it. His mouth got ahead of his brain, and he said something to the official he shouldn't have said. The official teased him up. I'm crying tears of joy. It's like my son was being born. I mean, it was just a beautiful thing to watch. And then I'm so happy. And then after the game, Alabama wins, and I see Anthony Grant smiling, and he's jumping in with the players. And the first thing he does in the postgame, guess what the first thing he does is, I'm very sorry that I cost our team 2 points for that technical. So the only time he's made me happy in 6 years, and he's sorry for it. I mean, that's how much he doesn't like me.
Luke, I wonder.
It's personal.
I know it's personal, but it almost felt like he knew he had to have a little more emotion. It's almost like not only you, but you have been out there beating the drum as loud as anyone, but he knew that Wednesday night he had to live up to some of the emotion that Bruce Pearl was going to put off. I don't think it mattered in the game too much, but visually, that's one of the main things I saw watching the basketball game was Anthony Grant looks a little jacked up tonight for some reason.
And I agree, and I thought he did, and that's what was so wonderful about it, and that's what was so heartbreaking to have him apologize for it because, yes, he's very late to the party here. I mean, every Alabama fan nationwide has been saying, we just want to see that you care. And you don't have to go Wimp Sanderson. Wimp probably went a little bit overboard, okay? You don't have to go Bobby Knight, and you don't have to throw chairs across the court. But when you see a bad call, even in the Kentucky game, that's one thing I harped on at the Kentucky game when Alabama hosted the Wildcats. Alabama was going to get beat. Alabama can't beat Kentucky. If they play 100 times, Kentucky's going to win 103 times somehow. But what you can do is say, I'm not going to let these officials own me too. Kentucky's going to beat our team. They're going to beat my team. But the officials aren't going to help them do it. And so you get in there and you set a precedent. You get a reputation for a coach who's not going to put up with bad calls. And not in an overly aggressive manner, but just in a way that I'm not going to be pushed around. Anthony Grant has been a coach who has been pushed around by the officials for 5.5 years at Alabama. He wasn't pushed around against Auburn, and then he was sorry for it. That's what bothered me so much.
I guess the part that really does bother me, if you watch NC State play ball and your stomach doesn't turn for Alabama and watching Trevor Lacey, who's the leading scorer there, and they've turned things around, and Godfrey's sitting over there on the sideline, and I know that he had his moments. Austin so eloquently said that he has to be the worst inbounds basketball coach I've ever seen. The only play that I think they can draw up is just throw it back to half court and start up the set. But Godfrey has had a pretty decent little run at NC State, and Alabama fans do have to be scratching their head when they are going out there and continuing to get the best talent here in this state that's staying at home, that don't go to Kentucky or don't go to a better option, but they end up leaving. So that's the part that no matter how good, I think Auburn fans are sitting there saying, congratulations, maybe Anthony Grant held on a few more years, and that would be a good thing for us.
Well, one other thing that I guess both hurts and helps Alabama, I got a different perspective on this last week, and I'm going to try and segue this into Anthony Grant. But last week, you saw the numbers that came out. Alabama's got a, $33 million surplus, and Auburn's $13 million in the hole, and everybody's kind of wondering, how in the world is this happening? And then Auburn goes out and buys a $10 million scoreboard, and what is going on? It's almost like oh my gosh, Auburn's athletic. Jay Jacobs has a credit card, and he's just out there, and he's like, hey, they told me I've got a limit on this thing, but the limit's $20 million, and I'm going to use every bit of it. But so Alabama folks were so happy because they were like, okay, this automatically means we're getting rid of Anthony Grant. Because we got all this money, we can get rid of Grant. Well, I think Alabama has an athletic director right now in a mindset of we're making money. We're making money with Grant there. Now, could we make a little more? Yes, but it's not like making more Nick Saban more. I mean, we could make a little more, but to get rid of Grant is going to cost you $4 million because that's his buyout. And then you have to go get the next coach, and let's just say it's a mediocre coach. I mean, not even a big name. So that's going to be $500,000 to $1 million buyout, probably somewhere in that neighborhood. And then you got to pay him, and you're probably going to have to pay him $1.5 million. So I think Alabama's business minds are thinking, okay, maybe we just hold on to him for another year if he's not embarrassing us. Because here's the positives for Anthony Grant. You never hear a whisper of impropriety.
True.
And as far as most Alabama people are concerned, the basketball team's job is to make sure the NCAA doesn't come sniffing around so that they could even just walk by the football department in case there's some impropriety. Because the NCAA, you don't know what they're ever going to do. I mean, they may see something, a player parked in a handicap spot and say it's an illegal benefit. And, the guy may have left the car running just to go get a paper or something. They say 5 years, no bowl game. I mean, you don't know what they're going to do. So I think that's part of the other sports jobs is to make sure the NCAA doesn't ever come around ever for any reason. So Anthony Grant's never in trouble. He is recruiting at a moderate level, not an elite level, but at a moderate level. He's getting this Design Ingram guy that's coming in from Theodore that we'll see next week.
Yeah.
Fabulous player, 6'5", he's in state. He doesn't get DeMarcus Cousins, but you know what? DeMarcus Cousins and Eric Bledsoe, they from Parker, they go to Kentucky because they're 5-star kids. That's what they're going to do. Auburn's not getting them either. I mean, UAB's not getting them either. So there's some positives to Anthony Grant. I've just never told anybody about him because I want him gone. But, you know, the win the other night made me feel good, but it would be so Anthony Grant to lose today to Georgia. It would, and this is a Georgia team, by the way, which is falling on hard times. J.J. Frazier may not play today. There wasn't even a spread on the game as of yesterday because they don't know about Frazier's status. So this may be a game that Anthony Grant loses. I mean, everybody thinks Alabama's just going to stroll away to a win because we're hot. I'm telling you, tonight is a game to look out for with Georgia.
256-234-6221. Our prediction today, Auburn and Kentucky in basketball. Points for KT Harrell will be the tiebreaker. We'd love to hear from you, Luke. Been keeping up with NFL Combine so far?
A little. But before we get into that, and I do want to get into it because I love the Combine, talking about the surplus versus Auburn being a little bit in the hole, one thing that's ironic about this, I talked to somebody yesterday, and they said that was the worst news that could have been put out there. And I said, it sounds great. It's great PR. And he said, here's the problem. Everybody we go to ask for money now says, well, you got a $33 million surplus. What do you need money from me for? And so it's harder to raise money now that people know you have money. And the thing is, you have to keep accumulating all this money because buyouts are getting bigger. Everybody's trying to keep up in the arms race with facilities. You've got to go out there and keep getting more and more. And that's why Auburn's investing in a scoreboard. Some people are like, why are we getting this scoreboard when we're in the hole? Well, because you got to keep doing it. If you stop, you will really go in debt. I mean, you got to spend money to make money. I mean, it's that kind of thing.
Well, when you look at it, and let me run down this quickly, $33 million surplus and 13 and 14 for Alabama, $13.7 million deficit for Auburn, one of the quickest in simplest sense. Auburn spent more but made far less than Alabama. The Auburn Athletic Department spent more than $7 million more than Alabama did in 13 and 14, but generated approximately $26 million less in revenue. Saw a whopping 21.8% in spending increase from 2012 and 13 to 13 and 14. A lot of those are salaries that are rolling over with fired coaches, but a lot of it is licensing. And Alabama has got an immense amount of licensing fees that come through theirs, whereas Auburn struggles, I think, with that in comparison to Alabama. And most do in comparison to Alabama and some of the larger
Alabama's
programs.
number two.
Alabama's number two.
Texas.
So that gives you a little bit of the storyline there, Luke.
That's all the money, and that's where Bill Battle, the athletic director at Alabama, has made his money. So he knows what he's doing there.
Yeah.
He gets it. And look, there's some problems I think everybody's had with Bill Battle, and he's got – I mean, people love to say he's got an ego. Well, if you're good at whatever it is you do, you probably have an ego. I mean, Nick Saban's got an ego. Gus Malzahn has an ego. I mean, those guys Cam Newton's got an ego. I mean, that's just the way it is. If you're really, really good at something and you've worked pretty hard for it, you're probably going to have an ego. So the thing is, Alabama's got a lot of egos over there right now, and you've got to keep them all in check. And by that standard, for Alabama to have this kind of surplus, for Alabama to have the success they've had across the board in most sports. I mean, baseball's getting better. Basketball is what it is. The women's basketball, look, it's never going to make money at Alabama, period. It's not going to make money at Auburn. But gymnastics, they got a big win last night against Georgia. It's still clipping along despite the fact that Sarah Patterson's retired. I mean, there's a lot of positive things. The football team is what the football team is. Golf team just keeps winning championships. There are a lot of positive things going on at Alabama, despite the fact that there are a few negative things behind the scenes.
256-234-6221 up against our first break here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Love for you to come out to JR Sports Bar and Grill, grab a great lunch, plenty of specials on the menu. We got the TVs rolling. We'll have ball games going on throughout the day. So come on out, JR Sports Bar and Grill in beautiful downtown Alexander City. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
That can fill the positions. S&S Tire has that team when it comes to your vehicle's tire mechanical needs. S&S, located in Alex City, Dadeville, and New Site, is the late
back to y'all in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Randy Lee alongside Luke Robinson this morning. We'll be with you till 12 o'clock. If you want to come out, have a great lunch, we're at JR Sports Bar and Grill as we are each and every Saturday. 256-234-6221 is our phone number. Anything on your mind, we'd love to hear from you. Our prediction for today is Auburn and Kentucky. Luke, do you want to throw a prediction out there? Can you believe I even threw that one out there to begin with? Auburn and Kentucky. Just give me a basic prediction that you think the game will.
Okay, well, I mentioned to you off air that I think Kentucky is susceptible to playing down to competition sometimes. I mean, you look at the game at Texas A&M, they look at the game at home against Ole Miss, and when they went on the road against LSU, they had a tight one. I'm going to say Auburn ends up losing by 17. But it's never really close, but it's never really the blowout. And I think it's going to be one of those games where we all know it could have been a lot worse, but Auburn fans are going to feel like, okay, we didn't get absolutely humiliated. I just don't see – first of all, Auburn's been off since Tuesday, and they've had to stew on this Alabama game for, an extra day, obviously, than they would normally. So I feel like Bruce Pearl's going to go up there and in the end, I think he realizes how important it is to go up there and not be humiliated. Go up there and just, if you'll just cover the spread, whatever the spread is. I'm sure it's 20, but I'm saying I would lose by 15 and you feel like you won. You didn't win, but you were in it when you really weren't. I think because Kentucky's the measuring stick. I mean, Alabama's not the measuring stick. That's in the end, nobody really is going to care about that. Kentucky, if you go and look good in a loss against Kentucky, it's going to mean more than losing at home against Alabama.
Get your prediction in. Auburn and Kentucky, KT Harrell. Points scored will be the tiebreaker. We'd love to hear from you. Let's move over. Let's talk about the NFL draft. And I just saw a number come across, and I'm sure that it's been going on. But the bench press reps, was that yesterday, Luke?
Yeah, there were a lot of bench press reps, and Sammy Coates tore it up.
Good. I think he had 23 at 225, and saw so many of the offensive linemen that weren't quite up to that. But you can watch him even run. He ran a 4.43 40 this morning, and just looking at him run, he's Terrell Owens-esque running around out there. He just looks like a beast of a human being. And what does he weigh? 215, 220? I haven't seen the measurables yet.
I was going to say more than that. I mean, I haven't seen what he measured in either, but I would say he looks more like a 230, 225 guy to me. But here's the problem. You put Sammy Coates, Terrell Owens right next to each other running around, probably couldn't tell them apart except for the hair. Okay. But he dropped another deep ball today. I just saw it, just came across Twitter that they were like, that's Sammy Coates. That's what you're getting. You're going to drop some very easy balls, and in the NFL, you only get so many opportunities every game. You're going to drop some really easy passes, and then you're going to make a big play, and he's always going to look good. I mean, he's always going to look good in uniform, but when you throw one deep, he's got to make that catch, and he's going to drop it sometimes. And it's really going to it disappointed Auburn fans, but Auburn fans kind of looked at it like, okay, we'll get them on this next play with Gus Malzahn. We'll devise something. In the NFL, if you get open and you drop a deep ball, you may not get another one.
Good point. And, I remember when Terrell came into the league for the 49ers, that was part of the knock on him was he would drop. And if you remember the big game and Owens, he had dropped about 4 or 5 balls in that game. So what was the big shock was that Steve Young decided and San Francisco decided instead of going to Jerry Rice, they'd go to Terrell in the middle of the field, and he makes the huge catch with about 3 guys nailing him into the end zone as they close out that ball game. So hopefully Sammy Coates can get things turned around there because he does have freakish ability. Where does he end up? Have you seen a mock draft? Do they have him at the end of the first round? Is that kind of where they're saying?
The best I've seen him is being picked last in the first round, and then I've seen him middle in the second round. I'm going to be honest. Even as an Alabama fan, I would pick him higher than that. I would go first round because I'm a measurables guy. Get your measurables, and then the rest will work itself out. If you can't coach what Sammy Coates has, you can try your best to coach him to catch better. If you just can't coach that size. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking at NFL Network.
He ran a 4.45 today, by the way. Or was it yesterday? But and Amari Cooper ran a 4.4, low 4.4 yesterday. And if I'm Amari Cooper, I shut it down. Yeah. Amari Cooper has looked awesome at the combines. Did you see the pull-ups he was doing the other day?
No.
Okay, they did a little special on him, and this was when he was still working in Alabama right before he left for the combine. But he was doing a pull-up where he pulls up, and as he pulls up, he lets go and claps, grabs the bar again, goes down, pulls up again, claps. I mean, it was phenomenal. And it's the other thing about him is that was – it wasn't my knock on him. I didn't have any knock on Amari Cooper, but I remember always thinking, I don't want him to get hurt. He looks a little more fragile out there than Sammy Coates. And it's probably not a fair comparison because Sammy Coates looks like a beast compared to tight ends. But when you see him now and you see him running in these drills, he has put on, it looks 5-10 pounds of muscle. He looks ridiculous.
Well, and if you saw, Amari Cooper said that in the game against Ohio State, he was 60%.
I agree with
that. So
that
was at the end of the season. He was fighting through injuries and still out there and not saying anything. NFL Network, I just saw a tweet come out. He said football or player comparison for Sammy Coates. Sammy Watkins that came out. So that's a pretty good one. He says that's what they say. Not bad. Let's move over to some other ones. TJ Yeldon's turning heads. How far can he creep up? Because we heard it, was it last week that you had your buddy from Talking Tuscaloosa on with us, and he said that there's a lot of buzz out there on TJ Yeldon, but now I continue to read all of these national pundits, and they're buzzing about him also.
Yeah, Kyle Odell, who's a scout with the 49ers, and he said – I'm telling you, there's a lot to love about him. And the other thing that NFL scouts love is that they know he played hurt. I mean, TJ Yeldon just wasn't healthy this year. He didn't get to 1,000 yards. He ended up being, 23, 30 yards short of 1,000. But that's not a big deal. They know he played in not his best shape. I mean, and the reason he wasn't in his best shape is because he was hurt. But it's he's better than Alabama fans and Auburn fans and everybody gives him credit for, and I think the scouts are beginning to notice that. I mean, he's a big guy who's tough. He's hard to bring down. He's not a blazer. I mean, he's not going to outrun a ton of folks, but he is going to find the hole. He's shifty. He's good at just about everything. He may not be great at any one thing, but I think he is good at about everything. And he may creep into the first round. I'm still going to predict he goes in the second, though.
Let's go ahead and take another break here on the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. We come back, we'll continue NFL draft talk, mainly Auburn and Alabama players, any other players in state that may have the potential of going. We'd love to hear from you, though. Our predictions, Auburn and Kentucky, tiebreaker, KT Harrell, points scored. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Day at 256-825-0197.
Back down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown, live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill, as we are each and every Saturday from 10 to 12. Love to hear from you. 256-234-6221. Our prediction today, Auburn and Kentucky basketball, KT Harrell points scored will be the tiebreaker, so make sure to get those calls in. And Luke, we're running down NFL Combine. Let's kick it over to Alabama. We talked about TJ Yeldon a bit, but the other players that are involved in the Combine and the buzz around them right now.
I think one guy that's Blake Sims is, of course, the guy everybody's going to look at and see what can be done. But I'm worried for Blake in the sense that I don't know that he has much of a future in the NFL. I just don't believe it. I believe he is an incredible athlete. I just don't think he has a home. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to end up being maybe a graduate assistant in Alabama, something like that. That's just my theory. I have no inside information there. Austin Shepard, I know he performed pretty well with the offensive linemen. I know he looked okay. He didn't just blow everybody away, but I think he did either as well or better than people expected him to. Xavier Dixon is a guy that I think is going to have turn some heads at the Combine. I really believe Xavier Dixon could shoot up the draft charts.
Interesting. And moving over to Auburn, here's the players that have the most to gain during the Combine. Angelo Blackson. Boy, he has always looked the part, Luke. When you see him walk out on the field, you say, God, if he could just ever turn it on, he's going to be something else. And he had glimpses of doing that, but production was never there at Auburn. He only had 17 tackles this past season. I think 3 behind the line of scrimmage. Just not much to say there. And Angelo Blackson, we'll see how he ends up. Nick Marshall, what a story. I mean, what an athlete to go to the Senior Bowl, to lead the Senior Bowl in tackles at a corner position that you haven't played in years, after putting up the numbers that he did at quarterback in his Auburn tenure, and then now coming to the Combine, it looks like the NFL scouts want to see him throw, Luke, and see how he does.
Yeah, I found that to be it's sort of an all-in move.
It is, yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, I've shown you what I can do at defensive back at the Senior Bowl. Now we're going to try this. And, again, I cannot fathom an NFL that has Nick Marshall as a starting quarterback. I just can't. Can you?
I can. And
you can?
No, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't but he has arm talent, and I know that's odd, but arm talent is something, Luke. And here's what I've heard. And, look, I know there's only a few teams that would be willing to do this, but a few teams would like to draft him as a secondary player and have him as a third-string backup quarterback just potentially. And
2 for 1.
Yeah, I could see that being maybe worth your money, Luke, honestly.
I can see it too, and I can buy that. Okay, yeah. I can buy that, but I can't imagine a scenario where he would play in the NFL as a quarterback. I just can't do it. I mean, he's too inaccurate, and I know every now and again he'd drop a dime on somebody, but for the most part, he did not put the passes where they need to be unless it was a deep ball and he was heaving it. And the irony there is usually Sammy Coates dropped those.
Good point. Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, you're on the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown.
Yeah, I'm thinking KT Harrell, he'll be, every time he touches the ball, there's going to be at least 2 of the Kentucky guys on him. So he may get 16 points today, but the key is going to be Auburn's got to not let Kentucky get 2 and 3 offensive rebounds. And if we can keep it within 20, I think we should win.
I hear you. Who are we talking to this morning?
Who?
Yeah, who are we talking to out there this morning?
Can you hear us?
And we apologize. The caller's unable to hear us, and hopefully we can get that corrected back there at the station, 256-234-6221. And if you could, and call back and let us know your prediction on the game. 16 points for KT Harrell was his prediction for the score.
Maybe I misunderstood, but I thought he said if we can keep them to within 20, we can win the game. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I think win is a word you can take out of the vocabulary today. Okay, that's not happening. I think the best Auburn can hope for is just not to get blown out. And I don't believe Auburn will get blown out. In fact, I will predict Auburn covers the spread.
What is the spread?
I'll look it up here in a second, but I'm guessing it's got to be 19 or so, right?
I would think.
In Rupp Arena?
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be 19.
256-234-6221. That's our prediction today, Auburn and Kentucky. KT Harrell, points scored will be the tiebreaker, so make sure to get that. We talked about Nick Marshall, the last player, Jermaine Whitehead. Size, just not a huge safety potential, but does show glimpses of having the athletic ability to find his way in the NFL at some point in time. So those are 3 players on the Auburn side that people are looking towards. Landon Collins, where is he landing right now?
I've seen him all over the board too. I have seen him as high as like number 6, number 7, and I have seen him as low as 25, 26. So it just depends on – he's going to be more of a guy – he's not one of those can't misses, okay? Lots of times it'll come down to there's too much value here. I don't think Landon Collins is that guy. I think he's going to have to go to a team that needs a safety. He's not a player that's good enough where you say, I've got to have him. If he falls to me, I'm taking him, at number 10. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think he needs to go like the Bears, like the Redskins, like the Eagles. Those are the teams that he's been most associated with. And conversely, I think Amari Cooper is the kind of guy, even if you don't need a receiver, if he's at number 4 or 5, I feel like you got to take him. I mean, you just regret not doing it.
256-234-6221 up against another break here on the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Get your prediction in, Auburn and Kentucky. Tiebreaker, KT Harrell, points scored. Love to hear from you. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Is East Central Alabama's certified train comfort specialist. That means the pros at Advance make you the focus with superior service on all brands, 24-hour on-call service, and rapid response time. Advanced Heating and Air is exclusive with Train Heating and Air products that deliver the longest reliability and great energy efficiency. Being a comfort specialist, Advance can offer an amazing 0% 60-month financing package on all Train's new products. Call 256-234-5052 for the best products, financing, and service. Advanced Heating and Air, where your comfort is our #1 concern.
If you're looking for the best chicken fingers or wings in town, then look no further than JR Sports Bar and Grill in Ellick City. Order my favorite, the Wing Basket, or try an awesome burger, quesadilla, crab claws, or dig into a healthy and delicious salad. JR's offers daily lunch specials that save you money without sacrificing on taste. Check out their Facebook page for daily lunch specials. JR's can also cater any special event from weddings to tailgate parties and has a huge party room for any special occasion. Stop by soon at JR Sports Bar and Grill at their location right off Highway 22 in Ellick City.
Don't let pests take your house or business over. Wave the red flag. Red Flag Pest, owned and operated by Scott Davis on Highway 280 in Jackson's Gap, is licensed, insured, and bonded, and serves the Lake Martin area, specializing in lake homes, residential property, and industrial property. Call for a free inspection today, 256-825-0430, and visit us online at redflagpestcontrol.com. Red Flag Pest Control, when the problem has to stop. Guaranteed.
He inherited his father's brown eyes and his mother's bright smile. Did he inherit their heart disease too? During American Heart Month, Russell Medical Center will offer 3 important screenings. If you or someone you love has
Come back to y'all in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown, live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. 256-234-6221 is our phone number. Love to hear from you. Auburn, Kentucky in basketball is our prediction for today. KT Harrell points scored will be the tiebreaker. We've talked a lot about basketball, moved in and talked NFL Combine. If you got some questions on those, we're going to talk a little bit about the HSA basketball. Before we do that, Luke, we were running down some SEC baseball scores, and Alabama losing last night, but they're on the road at the number 3 team in the country in Houston, lose 3-1. But this Alabama team's really pitching the ball extremely well right now.
They definitely are. It's nice to see the Alabama baseball team turning this thing around. They've gotten off to a very good start, and again, they lose to Houston, number 3 team in the country, so it's not that big of a deal. But and in baseball, it's kind of like basketball. It just doesn't matter. If you put up a good show, and I think people are okay with it, it's all going to come down to the SEC season, though. I mean, the SEC is strong again. They've got the number 1 and number 2 team in the country in Vandy and LSU, and they've got a bunch of other teams that are very good, littered throughout the conference. So it's always tough in this conference. Baseball may be as competitive as any other sport. I'm including football, whatever. SEC baseball is always strong, and so it's going to be – that's when it's going to tell the tale.
Yeah, we said that and talked about that on a question of the day on Sports Call this week. Luke, and I'd like to get your opinion on it. Is our question of the day for Auburn was which team, basketball, baseball, turns this thing around the quickest? And my point on the baseball side was when you look at the top 20 and you've got 7, 8, 9 teams in it each and every year, and Alabama just now getting – I think that Alabama's hitting their stride a little bit. They turned the corner somewhat last year, and I really feel like they're doing the same this year, moving into that top 20, and they've got some elite talent and some really good pitching. For me, the baseball side for Auburn's going to have the largest uphill battle because basketball's, just not all that great. I mean, if you can get to a 18, 19, 20 win season, which I think the basketball team can in the next couple of years, I think that may be quicker than we see an Auburn baseball team go to 40 victories.
Well, I think that Auburn baseball has more long-term potential and Auburn basketball is more short-term. I think that if Auburn gets pretty good in basketball, as good as Auburn fans believe they'll be under Bruce Pearl, I think you'll see Bruce Pearl go somewhere else. I mean, I just believe that. But baseball-wise, see, Auburn's always had some pretty good tradition baseball-wise. I mean, they've always been not necessarily an elite program, but their baseball program has been better than their basketball program, and that's not close. So I think that long-term Auburn's baseball prospects are going to be good no matter what happens with the coaching situation. If it doesn't work out for Galloway, Auburn will go out and get somebody else, and he'll probably be pretty good, and Auburn will be a factor. That's just long-term. I think Auburn's baseball looks better. The quickest turnaround, though, is going to be basketball without a doubt.
256-234-621. Love to hear from you, but talking baseball, it seems like light years away when Jim Wells and Hal Baird were doing what they were doing in the 90s and the 2000s. I'll just run down some records for Auburn. The last 8 years Hal Baird was there between 93 and 2000. Auburn reeled off 7 out of 8 of those years with 40-plus win seasons. 7 out of 8 of those years had winning records in SEC baseball. Since then, since 2000, 14 baseball seasons, Auburn's only had 2 winning records in the SEC, one back in 2003 and one in 2010. Alabama hasn't had that low of a fall off in the last 14 to 15 years since Jim Wells. He hasn't been gone quite that long, but it still hasn't been the name program that it was when Alabama was right there in the College World Series. About 3 or 4 years, they were there 2 or 3 of those years in a row and made it to the championship game, I believe, one of those years.
Yeah, they did. They played, I know, LSU for a championship, and that was a great game. That Alabama and LSU had such a nice rivalry there for a while. It's a shame that it's not been as good, but there is a turnaround coming, I think, for Alabama baseball right now. And again, I think Auburn's going to be much improved this year too. So I feel like things are about to get interesting. And baseball season, I hate to say kicks off with that Capital City Classic, but that is when I really start paying attention to baseball, because that is always a Tuesday night in Montgomery, Alabama and Auburn playing each other. That always seems to be a fun game. I think Alabama won last year for the first time ever, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just a game that always has a lot of intrigue. It's got an Iron Bowl feel to it. And then later on, I pay more attention when it comes around to SEC tournament time. I mean, that's the one day that I take a break and pay attention to baseball, college baseball, and then I don't pay attention to it again till much later on in the SEC season. But that is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. That's in March, I know.
Right? I'd like to get your thoughts on this, because Alabama really hasn't made a lot of improvements to their basketball gym. But when you look at baseball, they are really throwing money at this baseball facility now, and it's going to be top of the line. And we've had Kendall Graveman up here, and he's talked about, he played at Mississippi State. He talks about the facilities and the potential upgrades at Mississippi State. And yes, their attendance far outweighs what we see at Auburn and Alabama, even though when Auburn and Alabama used to go to a lot of games, Austin used to live at those ball games when baseball was really strong there when we were in school. But just show me your thoughts, because I think Alabama really needed these upgrades to get back in the game.
Well, Alabama did put, I think, $50 million into Coleman Coliseum, into renovating it, and it looks a lot better. Yeah. But it's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig. I mean, that's what I thought. I mean, yeah, the pig looks better. I mean, but it's still got some problems. And baseball they're doing it a little bit differently. I mean, everybody's getting out. Alabama's going to play their home games at Hoover. I think that's a good move, because it may bring some Birmingham interest back to Alabama, because I think one of the problems they've had is not only have they not been great, but it hadn't been that much fun to drive down from Birmingham and waste an afternoon watching a team that's not great and not a lot of fun. Now, if you're a little bit better and you show people, okay, these baseball games can be fun, maybe the next year they'll drive down and come see you. And maybe increase attendance that way, and knowing that you're going to have an upgraded stadium is also a big positive.
256-234-6221 is our phone number, Luke. We got a couple more minutes on this segment. Let's roll over quickly and talk about the finals. And I don't think we're calling it the finals until the actual finals. I'm not sure what we're calling the semifinals.
Semifinals?
Semifinals, or used to be the Final 48. We're having to swing things around, a different branding, a different look to that. Saw Chris Nix, our good friend, was on Channel 6 this other morning. He was doing a tremendous job talking about the Night Edie group and some of the things that they'll be bringing out. But the BJCC is an outstanding venue for these state championship games, in my opinion, for basketball.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what Night Edie group has in store for us with this, and the HSA too, because it's going to be an upgrade from whatever it was. And what it was already awesome.
It was good.
So it's going to be even that much more, I believe. They're 56 teams instead of 48 teams now. And it's just going to be a ton of fun.
Let's say that if you're looking for semifinal action, we're with HSA Radio Network. We'll create the talent. We'll push that out there. But if you're going to look for a stream or the game anywhere, we'll be the call. We'll handle the call. They'll pull that in on the online stream. Not all the semifinal games will be on television this year, so you can find a stream for that. Now, once they move into the finals, you can find those on the television dial, so make sure to stay tuned in. You can go to our website, hsaradionetwork.com, and pull those up. But a lot of the same culprits we see every year are going to be back again, Luke.
Yeah, I was making a joke. You could really just bring your program from last year.
You really
probably be okay with it. I mean, you've got teams like Keith. They're always involved. Sunshine always seems to be there, if you ask me, in some capacity. Spring Garden, Brantley, Red Bay, Tanner. These are all teams, Vincent, Geneva County, Elba section. These are all teams that you'd hear. That's just the first day. I mean, then you go back and you look at some of the other days, and again, you see Lauderdale County. That's a team that's incredibly strong. They're 37-0. I mean, if you want to just come see a team shoot for history, I mean, you may not be a historian on Lauderdale County girls basketball. I get that. But if you want to just come see a team go for history, they could win 39 games.
Yeah, and they did it last year.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
They've already broken the state. Yeah, they've broken the state record for consecutive victories, and I don't see it ending. They don't have close ball games.
No, I do not see this ending
at all.
And
both of those twin girls, the Walden girls, I believe they're only juniors. I think they've got another year left, and they play the point and the shooting guard position. One averages about 16, the other one 18. Good luck. I mean, you're just not going to see this team go down unless they move up and decide, look, we're going to give ourselves a chance. You see that in wrestling. I remember, I don't know if you've ever watched the old wrestling special that ESPN had on for the team down in Florida. And they were not a top-tier team. I think it was Brandon, Florida, but they had won. They broke the national record in state duels that they haven't lost a duel. And so what they did was, after it just got boring to their coaching, got boring to the community, they started bringing the top programs in the country in and having a duel. And they finally lost one. I don't remember who it was, but they couldn't lose in state. So it had just gotten to a point where they were wanting to bring – that's what Lauderdale County is going to have to do. They're going to have to move up and take on Hoover or something for this thing to get broken in these next few years. But that's just part of the storylines. But when you move into 5A, 6A, and 7A, Luke, I don't think I realized how good basketball was in this state until we started going over and covering. Basketball is really good in the state of Alabama, and it's going to be the same this year.
Yeah, it really is. You go look at Wednesday. You got J.O. Johnson. They've got the Petty kid that's going to be there, and he's a fantastic player. Hoover, look, they are a power in football and basketball and everything now. And the Hoover-Lee Montgomery game, and Lee Montgomery's got a kid named Tommy Burton, who we've seen win a state championship, which now the now defunct St. Jude program. He's a really good player. Alabama and Auburn are giving him moderate looks, but they're not giving him really strong looks. I think they should be. He is a very talented kid, very wiry. Then you look at Mountain Brook against Theodore. You got Ingram, the Alabama signee, who's really been a do-it-all kid this year, and he's helped. He had a very dramatic shot recently to help Theodore move on. And Mountain Brook, I mean, all they do is just beat people badly. I mean, embarrass them. And it's so funny because you look across the court and you're like, if you're a talented athlete, you're like, we got them. And then you go out there and all they do is bury threes or make layups, and they do it all night long.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about that. I think that it's a storyline that we've hit on somewhat, but I think it's a storyline that we need to even hit on more, because I brought it up to friends of mine, and Scott Hardy and I have had a good, I think, whole segment on that last year. It is refreshing to see Mountain Brook, and it was refreshing. I remember you and I having this talk. It was refreshing to see the Little League baseball team from Chicago, which it was crazy. The day after you and I had that conversation, all of it just went up in smoke. It was kind of odd, but it was refreshing to see sports that have lost different demographics able to come back, and you watch and you see an all-white basketball team go out there on the court, maybe one black on the team, win a state championship in the highest, and on vice versa in Little League. That was what the storyline was. Mm-hmm. An all-black Little League baseball team from inner city Chicago winning the national championship in baseball. I think that is a good thing. I don't know how you get things turned around in this country with the numbers, what you're seeing in the NBA and MLB, but that's what they were needing, Luke.
Well, and you're right, and that it is kind of, I'm making a joke about it, but of course they weren't all from inner city Chicago. Some of them were apparently from Ranburne and Kellyton and Charlotte, North Carolina, where they just said, hey, they get their mail in Chicago. But it was a great story, and Lance Armstrong was a great story too. Remember, and now, I mean, it's so terrible when we have all these great stories. We want to cling on to one of them, and then they always end up letting us down. But Mountain Brook hadn't done that yet. I mean, if you ask me, Mountain Brook is one of these stories. I can't believe the Mountain Brook story hadn't gotten more traction nationally, to be quite honest with you, because you are right. I mean, let's call a spade here, that they are predominantly white, and they are not necessarily the best athletes you've seen anywhere, but they're so well coached. They're so disciplined. They know, everybody knows their role, and they can all play different positions, and they all get after you. I mean, when you look out on the court, you can't tell. I mean, there may be one guy. I remember last year they had number 55.
And he's back. He's a senior this year.
Okay, good. I'm looking forward to seeing him then. And he's a taller guy, okay? But other than that, everybody's kind of the same height. Everybody's got the kind of the same look, and they've all got kind of the same athletic ability. You can't tell one from the other, but they just stay after you, and they substitute at an incredible – you wonder how the assistant coaches keep up. And I'm fortunate enough to have known one of the assistant coaches, or a guy that has been involved with the program. He wasn't an assistant coach, is Gil Berman. And his son played for the championship team.
Outstanding player.
He just goes to Texas. Look, and he's like, I don't want to play basketball anymore. I'm going to play some intramural stuff, and I'm going to do some other things. But, I kind of lived my dream. I enjoyed that. I mean, I can't imagine how much fun that had to be. And now they do it again the next year, and they're probably about to do it again this year. Can you imagine if you were a sophomore on that first team that wins a state championship, and you think, okay, Mountain Brook once in a lifetime, and now you're about to win your third?
Unbelievable. 256-234-6221 is our phone number. Love to hear from you. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Central Alabama.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Got about another hour left here on the program. Love to hear from you. 256-234-6221. Come on out to JR Sports Bar and Grill. We're up here every Saturday from 10 to 12. Beautiful downtown Alexander City. $5.99 snack wing basket. Also $3.99. You can bring your kids out in uniform. We know we got a lot of tryouts going on out there with baseball today, so bring your kids out in uniform. They'll eat off the kids menu for $3.99. 256-234-6221. Auburn, Kentucky is the prediction today. Tiebreaker will be KT Harrell, points scored. Auburn at 12-14, 4-9 in the conference. Kentucky looking to potentially run this thing out. It hasn't been since the mid-'70s that Indiana ran off and went undefeated all season long. We haven't seen that. UNLV was so very close in 1991 when Duke comes back in the semis and beats them. But, Luke, this Kentucky team, you think they can pull it off?
I do think they can pull it off. I hadn't seen anybody that can beat them. I mean, let's not forget, they beat Kansas earlier this year by, 30? I mean, they've beaten some good teams. I mean, they get to the being very fortunate to go through the SEC and not its greatest moment. But they do have to play teams like Arkansas, and they've got Arkansas, I think, next week. They've got Auburn tonight at home. Then they're at Mississippi State. Then I think they've got Arkansas again at home. And I just can't see any of those teams staying. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they beat all three of those teams by a combined 100 points. You know, and we looked up the line. I said the line I thought it'd be 19. Guess the line tonight is 25.5.
I tell you a team, though, in the SEC that I thought would get things turned around. They have, and that's Arkansas.
Yeah, they look better.
They're better, and I think they're going to be even better. And Mike Anderson, the first couple of years, said, well, what's missing? And I guess they didn't have the talent, but now they got premier post play, and there's talented. Qualls is as good a swing player as anybody in the conference right now. And so Arkansas, that is one team. Florida's dropped off the beaten path a little bit, and Arkansas's ran right into the middle of it.
Well, and what makes me sick when you bring up both those names is Alabama should have won both those games, if you ask me. They're on the road at Arkansas. That should have been a win. At home against Florida, against a non-vintage Florida team, and can't get it done, scoring 50 points in that game. I mean, and losing by 2. They only lost by 2. Can I give a public service announcement real quick?
True. Yes, please.
For those out there worried to death about 50 Shades of Grey, I'm telling you now, the movie's terrible and overrated and acting so bad, it'll make you wish you were watching a Spanish language soap opera. But if you want to go just to see how bad if you just want to go because you read the book, but you're scared of seeing some things on the screen that'll be intimidating, don't worry about it. Go ahead and go. It's not that big of a deal. If you watch Days of Our Lives, you've seen as bad a stuff as you'll see in 50 Shades of Grey. I really believe that.
It's that bad?
It's one of the worst movies I've seen in the last 10 years. I mean, especially compared to the hype and especially compared to the money it's made. It's making money so fast, but it's all based on hype before the movie.
I was about to say, you need to pull up, Krista needs to pull up their PR firm and see what they did correct on this, because whatever, they did it perfectly, didn't they?
Oh, they did. I mean, I kept hoping any minute. I mean, there were so many implausible things in this movie, but I just kept hoping that in any minute, like I was just going to see, like if Godzilla had just shown up right there at the end and just fried everybody, it would have made the movie worth it.
256-23.
About in the movie theater.
That bad.
Yeah, it was that bad.
Well, call us in, I guess, in the next couple of weeks if you're able to go out there and see us, see if you think it's as bad as Luke has brought up 50 Shades of Grey.
I told somebody I would rather go to right here on Alabama Street and watch 3 Shades of Khaki than to watch that movie for 5 more minutes.
256-234-6221. Prediction today is Auburn and Kentucky. Tiebreaker, KT Harrell, points scored. Luke said that this one's going to maybe he feels like Auburn will keep this under the line. If the line's 19, we'll see how that plays.
The line's 25.5, so I feel very good about it.
You feel good about it?
Put Auburn in a teaser, folks.
I just don't know. Wisconsin just tipping now. That is a team that whatever they're doing it right.
Oh, they're good.
I mean, there's a few teams up north that Iowa being one of them also that continue to reel off wins, but I just don't get I get it, but it's hard to fathom how Auburn's basketball team is as bad as it is. It's not this year, but just for the last 15 years.
Well, how much better will Auburn be next year? I mean, they bring in some guys.
I don't think any.
But you lose KT Harrell and you lose Antoine Mason. Does Bowers, I assume, is going to stay.
How does he not?
I mean, he's not really an NBA guy, but he's got kind of it sure appears he's got the ego of, I'm going to go try it and see what happens. Is there anything more tired right now in SEC basketball than him double flexing when Auburn still loses just about every night? Is there anything more tired than that?
No, and I don't see how he comes. And I brought that up on call this week. I said, look, you look at Alabama. You look at these points in the game. Auburn loses to Alabama. Antoine Mason has 24. KT Arell has 21. 45 of the 68 points in seniors. I know that they've got a decent recruiting class coming in, not a top-rated, but one of the best ones Auburn's ever had, clearly. True. But you got to make up 45 points in a game against Alabama. You only got 5 from your bench. TJ Lang had 5 points in the first half. That was it. I mean, do you really think that we're going to be able to turn the corner quickly? That was part of our question of the day, I think, on Wednesday is which one turns the corner, because I can see basketball doing it, but it's going to be a few years because right now, I mean, we're way behind.
Well, this isn't, obviously, obvious alert here. Auburn's not Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky has to turn over a complete roster just about every year. Now, they didn't this year. They got very fortunate that some kids ended up coming back. But next year, I mean, Kentucky's going to have a completely new roster. I mean, completely new. They're going to have so many people go pro, and they're going to have to recruit, and they're going to be fine. I mean, I would still probably say they're preseason 1 or 2, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because we just know what they're going to do.
They're going to get 4 or 5 McDonald's All-Americans.
Auburn's getting 5 top 150, top 200 players, and you still just don't know because, let's remember, Jimmy Taylor was a top 150 player, and he's not bad, but you can't build your program around it. And, I mean, it's not the same.
Justin Coleman was a top 100 player.
Justin Coleman was a top 50 player.
Yeah, I mean,
and he's a nice player. I think Justin Coleman's got potential, but, has he been the difference in really any game this year? I mean, his best game, arguably, I think, was that game at Arkansas, and Alabama ended up losing.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up 2 perfect ones here in the state of Alabama. And Auburn, when you look and you've got 4 or 5 guys that are in top 150, top 200, that is as good as you can expect. And that's the reason I'm not upset with Bruce Pearl, and I don't think we could do any better. But if we can't pull it off with him there, Lord help us on the next move.
Look, it's a tough sell, and it's more of a quick fix than. And I know some Auburn fans say, "Well, look at what he did at Tennessee." Tennessee is not devoid of basketball history. Tennessee is
absolutely.
They had Thompson Bowling seats 23,000. I mean, and they did it for a reason. They didn't just build 23,000 because they picked a number out of a hat. I mean, Tennessee has had some crowds. They've had some history. They're not bad. Auburn's not that way. I mean, you have to sell more than you have to put more than just a quality product out there. You've got to get out there and just rebrand the basketball team as a whole. Now, Bruce Pearl is doing a good job of it. I got to say, I mean, you got a new arena to sell. It's still shiny, still new. It's got a little Tony Barbie left in it. But, when you're losing at home, you shouldn't be losing at home to Alabama this year, though. I mean, I don't care. I mean, you just shouldn't. You shouldn't lose to Alabama, especially after Alabama drops that game to Vandy at home without Ricky Tarrant. Let's go ahead and throw that out there. It's not like Alabama came in there loaded for bear. I mean, Ricky Tarrant was Alabama's best player, maybe tied with Levi Randolph heading into this thing. And here's the other interesting fact. Levi Randolph had never had a field goal at Auburn Arena. Isn't that right?
Oh, it was something odd.
Until the other night he hits a 17-foot jumper, and then, he breaks the seal and he ends up having a pretty good game. But point being, Auburn should have won that game. I mean, I think if they played again, you would still pick Auburn to win, don't you?
I would.
I couldn't believe Alabama was the favorite. That blew me away.
256-234-6221. Our prediction today: Auburn and Kentucky tiebreaker. KT Harrell points scored. Love to hear from you. Bring your kids out in uniform if they're out heading over to practice. If they're heading over to their tryout today for baseball, $3.99. Bring your kids out in uniform. They'll eat off the kids menu. You can't ask for a better local location than JR Sports Bar and Grill, and for all that they do here in the local community. Let's go ahead and take another break here on the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. We come back, we'll close it out with Luke, get a couple of more thoughts from him. Brett Pritchard will come up here with me from 11:30 to 12 to close things out. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Best chicken fingers or wings in town, and look no further than JR Sports.
Come back to y'all in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Got about 50 more minutes left here on the program. Love for you to come out to JR Sports Bar and Grill. Have a great lunch, $3.99. Bring your kids out in uniform. They'll eat off the kids' menu. Can't ask for better corporate partners here in downtown Alexander City. Hopefully it'll continue to warm up out there. The rain will stay away because we've got a ton of tryouts going on for baseball today, so we know a lot of the kids are out there. That's where I'll be heading over at 1:30 this afternoon. Luke, I don't think that it's ever too early on our programs to start talking about recruiting, especially recruiting here in the state of Alabama. And next year is going to be a very good class of recruits here in the state of Alabama, in my opinion.
Well, I think you've got 3 of the top, 15 players in the country from here in Alabama. You got 2 of them on the same team, and Mac Wilson and Marlon Davidson down at Carver. And then you've got Ben Davis at Gordo, and all 3 of them are at Alabama this weekend on a visit. My prediction right now would be that Alabama gets Wilson and gets Davis, and Auburn ends up getting Davidson because he is an Auburn legacy. But, you know, you never know. That could all switch around. Ben Davis at Gordo is also an Alabama legacy. I think that may be the lock of the locks, and the others are kind of up in the air. But Alabama did get a commitment from TJ Simmons, who is a wide receiver from Clay Chalkville. He's very good. I like him a lot. Is he a 5-star? No. He's pretty much a consensus 3-star right now. I think it will get bumped up, and whether it gets bumped up because he gets the Bama bump or because he deserves the 4-star, I'll let you put that out there for debate. But I think that he's the kind of guy, if you ask me, Alabama takes all the time, no matter what the season is. But at Nick Saban's Alabama, things are a little bit different. I mean, Alabama has extended their recruiting reach. So these kind of guys do get lost in the shuffle sometimes. Personally, I would take him all day, every day. I think comes from a winning program. He's got the size. He's 6'2", 185 pounds right now, and I think he's got some room to grow. I think he's more of a possession, Triondus Luke kind of guy, if you remember him, who played at Alabama at Central Phoenix City. He's also got a guy named Nico Collins, who is a year behind him, who's got very Julio Jones-ish types tendencies. He's about 6'5". He's a little bit weightier, maybe 200, 210 pounds. And so I think that may give Alabama a leg up with him.
He's a high-rated basketball guy, too.
Yeah, he is. And it can't hurt with him. I mean, I don't think it necessarily makes him a lot for Alabama, but Alabama did offer him a scholarship this week as well. So I feel like it's positive. Look, give me a kid from Clay Chalkville and I'll work it out. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I mean, they are as successful a program in the state of Alabama with the exception of possibly Hoover, right?
Let me bring that up because you knowing more and have lived longer in the Birmingham area than any of us. Clay Chalkville, up around the Trussville area, are you surprised how talented and what a program they built from that area? I mean, it's not – I wouldn't call it a feeding frenzy. It hasn't been, but, boy, it is now when you watch them play and their quarterback this next year. I don't know where he ends up. Maybe he's Jarrell Jernigan and ends up at Troy or something. Golly, he's awesome.
He's good.
He's really, really good. He may not be a quarterback at the next level, but in high school football, he is scary good, and he's got these receivers to throw to. They may break every offensive record that there could possibly be this upcoming year in football.
They've got more talent coming back in just a few players with Collins, Simmons, and Pigram than did Shades Valley with their trio of players. Among those, I know Rashad Louis and Keith Mixon were in there. And I think that they can just blow people away. If you remember Simmons, I think you called the game in the state championship at Auburn this year where he had a 79-yard touchdown, which really changed the game.
It did.
He also had 3 touchdowns against Minor this year. And if people know, Minor has a defensive back that is committed to Mississippi State. So they've got some SEC-level backfield and talent in the backfield. And I feel like he's the kind of guy you take all day. I think you take Nico Collins all day. And Ty Pigram, I think he's at Auburn this weekend.
He is, yeah.
That's kind of the ironic thing. But it would be okay with me if Alabama took a shot on him too. The same thing with Auburn.
Yeah, he's just outstanding and does remind me of Jarrell Jernigan at UFAL. I mentioned that. Throws the ball. I mean, his numbers were – I think he accounted for 60-plus touchdowns this year as a junior. And he would have easily been – Brett and I, whenever we did the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game came up, I said, where in the world's Pigram? How is he not our quarterback? Dave Brett said because he can't be till next year. I was a little shocked with that. But back to my question, though. Are you are you shocked with the way Clay Chalkville's built this program from where they are? Because I don't feel like that when you're at Hoover, it's very simple to see you and I live over in the Homewood area, or we live somewhere. We lived in Thompson. We live in Alabaster. We live in Pelham. Let's make a move, change addresses because I want my kid to go through Hoover High School. So simple to do. People don't like to say it. People don't think that it happens as much as it does. It happens all the time. You make a decision where you want, depending on what you want out there. I can't see that quite as much in Clay Chalkville, but yet every year they're just reeling off one great athlete after another.
I agree. I don't know where they're coming from. It does seem like they've come right out of the blue. Now, Clay Chalkville's been powerful for a while.
They have.
But I don't think people have taken them as seriously as they have, say, somebody like Hoover, and they should be, because Clay Chalkville is ridiculous. It is funny. You look on the AL.com article about T.J. Simmons and his commitment. And one of the reasons it's so big is because there's not a lot of commitments right now. I doubt Alabama or Auburn get one this weekend, even though they both have big visit weekends. But one thing Brett and I talk about all the time about commitment, and he says they talk about why Alabama and will he visit other schools. And a quote is, "It's going to slow down a little bit for me real soon. I want to be 100% for Bama, but I still want to look around." And then it's he has all this Auburn stuff. He grew up an Auburn fan. Simmons said he grew up an Auburn fan. He was asked what his football dream was 5 years ago, and he said he'd be playing for Auburn. He said he wouldn't know what would happen if Auburn came through with an offer. He said, Bama's closer. It's easier for me to travel for Alabama, so I love Alabama. I mean, it's so funny. We forget how young these kids are and how fickle they are. And talking about commitment, and really it's not a commitment. He's kind of saying, like, I'm leaning to Alabama right now. I think that we can take the word commitment out and just say where you're leaning.
Yeah, good point. 256-234-6221. Other players in the state. Run them down. I think AL.com, they have an article on that this week, Luke.
Well, yeah, they had the 2014. I thought it was the 2015 upcoming All-State team. It was actually a 2014 team. But the state of Alabama, Jimmy Stein and I talked about this this week on the Talking Tuscaloosa podcast. And one of the things he mentioned is it's a super fantastic year. But here's the deal. You're really top heavy with those top three guys. Okay. And then you go maybe have a little bit of a break. I mean, you've got some guys that are talented, but not necessarily right behind those other three. But then you've got a huge group where you're like, oh my gosh, I can see him developing. This is a great year for Mississippi State.
Yeah.
This is a great year for Ole Miss. This is when you come cherry pick the state of Alabama. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Jimmy does a great job. And he does his Super 16 team. And I'm going, if my computer will ever load, I will run down a few of those guys. But you talk about Jeremiah Moon. Okay, he's a guy at Hoover that won a state championship. People thought he looked better than Darrell Williams and Christian Bell, who went to Auburn and Alabama respectively. And he's a very good player. John Broussard. That's a guy who started out setting the world on fire. People have cooled on him a little bit, but he's still an SEC level talent. Alabama, Auburn, LSU all involved. And then you get to Deontay Brown, who's an offensive lineman at Austin Decatur, and Jamal Couch at Central Phoenix City, who's a tight end. Jamal Couch may be one of the best-looking prospects just on paper, kind of Sammy Coates-ish. I mean, you look at him and you say, I don't know, I don't care. I don't have to see him play. I want him on my team. And that's kind of the way he is. To Darryl Marshall at Leeds, we know about him, of course, their state championship caliber, and he's a fantastic. Malik Miller, I mean, seems like we've been saying his name for years and years and years. Quinnen Williams, who's already committed to Auburn. Sean Jennings, Anthony Jennings' brother at Dadeville, is on this list, and I think he's a fantastic player. Again, Sean Jennings, to me, is an Alabama-level prospect any given year, and I hope that he goes to Alabama. But Alabama is odd right now. I mean, they're recruiting so nationally. I just don't want guys like this to be passed up because I think Sean Jennings is a superstar in the making. And then Darius Whitfield. That's Josh Casher's brother, who I thought a couple of years ago would be the top player in the state, and he's number 16 on Jimmy's list. And Jimmy's biased to Mobile kids.
Of course
he is, but he's number 16 on this list. That tells you how good a year it is.
Yeah, it's a great year, and we've had a lot of questions and thoughts out there. Let me bring it up. Benjamin Russell High School, they've got several kids that have very good opportunities this year. I'll start with Daniel Bland. He'll be a 3-year starter on the offensive line. He's won 2 consecutive state championships at the heavyweight division, and 1 in 5A and 1 in 6A. He's a very smart kid, a groomed, good football player, high motor kid. He's about 6'1", 285 pounds, 290. Reminds me of Josh Casher. Mm-hmm. I kept telling his dad, I said, he's a Josh Casher. He's going to have to play in the middle because he's not 6'4", 6'5". But in high school football, Josh Casher played out at tackle for St. Paul's, and he was ideal, and then moving him down to the center position in college. I think Daniel has that opportunity, probably also has an opportunity to go somewhere where they have a wrestling program as good as he is at that sport. Another one that I'll think, and I don't want to throw all of them out there, but one that I think from Benjamin Russell has a great chance to turn heads is Trey Edwards. And Trey will stand up this year. He played defensive end last year, led the team in tackles. He's about 6'1", 6'1.5". I think he'll weigh 210, 215 this year, and he'll play in the middle. The biggest thing for Trey is he runs extremely well. He's a 4.65, 4.6 guy, and it's legitimate. He's one of the fastest kids on the football team. So we'll see if he has the opportunity to turn some heads. I know once the film comes on and they look at him, and another one from a wonderful family and just a smart kid here. So hopefully Benjamin Russell can start getting back in the game with some of these kids and get an opportunity, because they're going to have, you spend it however you want, they're going to have a very good football team this year as long as everything plays out. Tyree Gray at quarterback also. I don't know if he plays quarterback the next level, but he's going to run a very good time in the 40. He's an outstanding athlete and probably has the chance to play a cornerback position or a safety position in college. So there's 3 of them. It's a great senior class this year. Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, you're on the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown.
Hey, guys, this is Terry.
Good to hear from you, Terry.
How y'all doing?
Good, good. We hadn't heard from you in a while.
Well, I've been kind of busy. I've been a little under the weather, too. Been fighting that off. You know, that crud's kind of going around. So I took my turn, but I'm doing better.
Well, it definitely is. And how's everything else going your way? Have you been keeping up? We haven't heard from you on Sports Call also, so it's always nice to get your opinion on how this basketball team's doing.
Well, I think it's just, you know, guys, it's just an illustration of how much work Bruce Pearl's got to do. I mean, I'm not, you know, not saying that the talent's out there. Trevon Reed, the big guy, he could be special, but he's a couple of years away. And let's be totally honest. I had a little side bet with a guy at work that said they'll have Auburn in the NCAA tournament in 2 years. And I said, nah, it's 3 years tops, because there is a lot of work to do. I don't think people realize the hole that was left there.
Good points. And what else did you have on your mind today, Terry?
Well, the NFL Combine a little bit, guys. And y'all, a while ago, before I get that, y'all were talking about Clay Chalkville. Think what Hewitt Trustful might have been if not for Clay Chalkville. Now, they might have been a Hoover.
They definitely might. And, that split, and if you remember, Clay Chalkville, and I believe it was in 96, may have been 97, but it may have been 98. I'm sorry. I just rolled through 3 years. But Clay Chalkville, in about year 2 or year 3 of their school's existence, they won a state championship in Class 6A in football. So. And, boy, it was a head-scratcher. Where are they coming from? But now you see this team's just up there in the thick of things every year.
Right. It's just I agree with what you guys said. It's where is that talent coming from? You know, because if not for Clay Chalkville, like I said, Hewitt Trustful might have been the Hoover of this area, you know, or the state. Who knows? I mean, it kind of goes by the wayside a little bit. Of course, you know, Spain Park was built because Hoover was so crowded.
That's right.
So, you look at it both ways.
And they just haven't quite been able to get – they did make one state championship game, which surprisingly enough is the only state championship game Hoover has not made in the highest class here in the state since 2000. Spain Park makes that 1 year. So Clay Chalkville actually didn't get over the hump ever. But you just feel like that program's maybe a step ahead where Spain Park is currently.
Right. Now, on the NFL Combine, guys, there's been a lot of talk. I guess it's pretty much said so Nick Marshall's going to play defensive back. I always kind of wondered why he wasn't looked at as more of a slash role like what Cordell Stewart was when he first come in. You know, I think defensive back is a smart decision for him because the NFL is looking for, 6'1", 200-pound corners to go against those enormous receivers like Calvin Johnson. And the receivers keep getting bigger and the cornerbacks sort of stay the same. But I just kind of wondered why that is. And were you guys going to talk about the Combine and some of the results of it today?
Yeah, we talked about it in about the second segment of the program this morning. And, Sammy Coates ran a 4.45, weighed in at 212, had 23 reps in the Combine also, which was, if you just want to give for instance, Austin Shepard, who is up there from Alabama, only had 17 reps at 225. So that tells you the strength that Sammy Coates. But over to Nick Marshall, I've been with you, Terry. He's so talented with the football in his hands, has the speed, but sometimes just speed doesn't parlay to the field. Some guys just either have it or they don't. Nick Marshall's got it. When the ball's in his hands, he's special. And I thought that being a slot receiver, someone that could throw the ball on some reverse passes and do some things like that cause problems out there, that would be a good fit. But no matter what, I hope that Nick Marshall just finds his way, gets his opportunity, and performs well, because he's such an outstanding athlete. You want to see him find what position they want.
Right. And athletes, that's why he can make the transition over to defense, because he is such a great athlete. But I really think people might be missing the ball there a little bit. Pardon the weak pun there, but I could see him in a Cordell Stewart type role on an offense. Now, Cordell Stewart, he could have been wearing a gold jacket in Ohio if he'd let his ego got in the way, because that's where he was headed as Slash. He let his ego get in the way, wanted to be a back, and it just didn't work out.
Totally agree,
I feel
Terry.
like that's a role Nick Marshall could just have a long, prosperous career if he didn't let his ego get in the way.
Reese Dismukes also, Terry. He had an outstanding combine, was by far, when you look at all the stats and all the agility drills at the center position, he was number one. Leaving out of that, now does he get drafted ahead of some of those others? I think that he was picked as the number 3 center coming into this combine, but his numbers were really good, and I think that he has the potential of a long, long career in the NFL. But when we come back after this break, Terry, Brett will be up here with me, and we'll pull up a lot of those stats and throw them along out there to you, okay?
Okay, guys, y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Terry. We appreciate that phone call. Go ahead and go to a break. Our prediction today is Auburn and Kentucky basketball. KT Harrell points will be the tiebreaker. Come on out to JR Sports Bar and Grill, $3.99. Bring your kids out in uniform. They'll eat off the kids' menu. $5.99 snack wing basket is the special each and every time you hear us on the air with the Saturday Sports Countdown. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
To serve East Alabama's lawn and power equipment needs with quality products from
Come back to y'all in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown, live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. We'll be here with you until 12 o'clock as we are each and every Saturday. Make sure to come out, have a great lunch, $5.99 snack wing basket. One thing we also want to pass along, JR's Catering, 256-329-2328. Anything you have in mind, any event that you're needing catering needs for, JR Sports Bar and Grill is a great place to call on. Terry, good to hear from Terry in that previous segment. And I want to start with the basketball comment that he had because I think that's where our prediction today is. By the way, Auburn and Kentucky, KT Orell points scored will be the tiebreaker.
I'm sure y'all have had an overwhelming a lot of predictions on Auburn upsetting Kentucky.
Well,
right?
we saw a piece up there on ESPN this morning, and they did a whole segment on how Auburn can pull off the upset.
Can't.
And Chris walked over and he said, he started laughing up at the TV screen, and that was what it was. And it's just so far away, especially in the post play. And if you don't have the post play right now against Kentucky, it just ain't going to work out for you.
Look, I said it yesterday on Sports Call, and we talked about it for a while. I said, look, it's just apples to oranges. You know, Kentucky's got a 6'8", a 6'9", and a 6'10" guy. They're going to start today all at the same time. And KT Harrell's going to have a guy that's 6'9" guarding him. And you know why? Because he can. He's athletic enough to stay with him. You know, it's an unfair comparison, and it's not a cut on anybody that Auburn has. They'll go up and play hard. But, you know, these two programs are not even on the same planet right now. And, you know, Bruce Pearl's going to do his best to continue to build. If anybody can do it, it'll be him to be able to bring some talent in. And you know what? I'm not too sure next year. I know I heard what you said about KT Orell and you know, Antoine Mason leaving, and that's definitely going to be a big blow. But, you know, I think it's going to be more about getting guys in there and shaping a new mentality for the program. I'm not – Mason's a one-time guy in there. KT Orell had been to Virginia, and then he came back to Auburn. I think it's about a mindset. You know, Luke was right, and, you know, Kentucky just takes one team from one year, and we discussed that yesterday too, about how freshmen in basketball, the one and dones kind of hurt basketball and hurt people's affiliation with basketball. You can't really get a good feel for a team, even Kentucky, even Duke, because they have such turnover. But they'll bring 5 McDonald's All-Americans in to replace the 5 guys that leave early. You know, we'll bring top 150, top 200 guys in, but they'll have to have a little bit more work. But the mentality around that organization is going to be where Auburn starts to build a program, and that's what Bruce Pearl's going to do.
256-234-6221, and we won't bring up. I ain't even going to give a prediction on the game today.
It's not no need to.
Did you see the Big Ten happenings where we're looking at going back to freshmen not being
talked about it for an hour and a half yesterday? That's what the whole. We had more calls yesterday, Randy, on that than I can remember, and I had a guy stop me in Walmart yesterday and talk to me after the show. He said, man, I heard what y'all were saying. He said, I remember those days. He said, I was at Tuscaloosa when Pat Sullivan brought, you know, Auburn back in that freshman game against Alabama. And he said how – and he brought up a great perspective. And I brought up on the show yesterday, I said, you know what would be funny is if we had these freshman games or if they went to 7-on-7 – I said, how quick would it take for these networks to pick that up? I said, you don't think that would become fun to watch? Sean White possibly playing quarterback this past year with Rock Thomas back there. You know, if it's just a true all-freshman team, there is a niche for that. But in 2015, I think it's going backwards because, you know, you got some guys on rosters now that leave early. I mean, in the scholarship limitations – you have to have freshmen come in and be able to play. You have to rely on those numbers. There's a lot of, even on teams like Alabama that have deep rosters, Randy, they may either start a freshman or have a freshman backing up a top player. So, you know, it's not 1970 anymore. Those times were good because, you know, or 1960 when you're bringing kids in and
you had a bunch of kids.
You brought a ton of kids in and you were trying to get them acclimated to college because there just wasn't technology and travel was tougher and all that kind of stuff. 2015, that's not going to work.
Why do you think they're even looking at it, though? Give me your reason to be talking about it, because I can only imagine how – can they do it and the rest of the country not? Can they do it? And if they can do it and the rest of the country not, can you imagine how hard of a recruiting
it'll kill
ploy that will be?
That'll be the dumbest move they could ever make. Their whole conference will fold. I mean, they can't do that. You can't. It's like cutting your nose off to spite your face. You can't make a stance on that. What their argument is that we need to do a better job of getting kids acclimated as a freshman. We're losing them as a freshman's reason they're not graduating. They're not getting in. We need to give them more time to study. Now, come on, man. Let's be realistic about things. I mean, 2015, I look at it opposite of that. If you bring a bunch of freshmen in and they know they're not going to play on Saturday, man, that just opens up a bigger door for them to get in more trouble. Because back in the 60s and 70s, Randy, everybody was on the athletic dorms together. They all lived together. That's not the case anymore. You can't require all your athletes to live in one place anymore. You have to give them the option. They live off campus and all this kind of stuff now. So you're really opening up a can of worms you don't need to open up. I see some positives to it where, like you said, that would be fun to watch a guy like Sean White. We could see him develop. But then, you'd also create controversy because you'd be like, man, that guy's down there tearing it up. Man, we need to move him up to the ball. Boy, I wish we had him on the varsity squad this year and he could be playing. He's doing a lot better than Nick Marshall did or whatever, but you could just hear all the banter and the talk about how, we wish we had this guy up there. Look, if they're physically ready to go, and guys are great. Lyndon Blake came on yesterday, and she gave it from a Tigerette's perspective, and by the way, she did an outstanding job. And it was unique that she was here yesterday to talk about it because she's been around all this. She said, well, these guys are graduating before their senior year anyway. So she said it's kind of the argument doesn't hold water. Sammy Coates graduated early. He came back this year. I mean, so the academics.
You heard Byron Cowart say the same thing. He wanted a school that would give him the way to graduate in 3 years because he wants to go pro after 3 years. He didn't leave any gray area. That's his expectation.
Well, he's got a plan together, and that's good. I preach that over at the college all the time when I'm talking to juniors and seniors. I'm like, you need to come up with a plan, and you need to work your plan and have your goals set. If you want to get to this point by this certain time, then you need to lay it out and see how you can get there. Don't just go into it semester by semester. And I think that's great. Byron Cowart's physically ready. He has a good head on his shoulders. You can hear it when he talks. He's very serious about his academics. He's not coming here just to get to the next level, but it's part of what he wants to do. And what are you going to do if you do that? If you're going to redshirt him, you're going to change the 3-year rule. You're going to change it to where? So now you're saying you can only play those guys for 2 years. So the NCAA would have to go back and change all of that, Randy. It's just too much. It makes no sense. But we literally talked about it for an hour and a half yesterday and had some really good calls on it. And I think there are some positives, maybe a few, but the negatives far outweigh the positives, in my opinion.
Let's spin back over to basketball, though. Do you think there's any movement to change back to the way it was? You think they're happy with the 1 year, the one and done? These players come in for one semester at the most. They don't go to class. I mean, maybe they do, but for the most part, they understand they're not there for that year other than to move on, and they're going to go directly to the NBA. And I just don't see the benefit of that. Honestly, I would just say
it's killed college basketball. And 2 or 3 people called in yesterday, talked about that. Andy and I agreed with that. When you and I were in high school, we'd come to Benjamin Russell, and we talked about, man, that Duke game last night, and we remember, I can still name their starting lineup from 90, 91, 92. I can still name off UNLV starting lineup. And I can tell you who played for Villanova, Georgetown. I can tell you all these guys. Can't do it anymore. They're not there long enough. Andy brought up Jamison Brewer yesterday. You remember Jamison Brewer? I'd forgotten about him. He was a good basketball player. He left after 1 year and flopped out, never made it in the NBA. And I thought back to myself. I was like, man, Jamison Brewer was a good player, but where did he go? I hadn't heard hiding a hair of him since. And he said if there was ever a great example of why they shouldn't have a one and done, it's Jamison Brewer. And I told Andy, I said I couldn't agree anymore. I couldn't agree more at all that Jamison Brewer not being at Auburn for another year could have made him better, could have made Auburn's program better. And college basketball has suffered. We don't associate. Luke's the biggest of all of us as far as a college basketball fan. He could care less, Randy. In a matter of the last 2 years, he's gotten so frustrated with college basketball, and I know he's frustrated with Alabama too. That's had a lot to do with it. But he said it's just not fun to watch. Period. I don't watch it. I don't watch it like I used to when me and you were in high school and used to talk about Bobby Hurley and Christian Laettner and Eric Montross and Stacey Augman and Larry Johnson. I'm just naming all these players because they were there 3 or 4 years.
Up against a break. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
CTE Small Engines has served East Alabama's lawn and power equipment team.
Come back yelling 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown, live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. Got about 15 minutes left here on the program this morning. Make sure to come out, bring your kids out in uniform. They'll eat off the kids menu for $3.99. Can't beat that as a sponsor. Brett, you've got kids out there, and you've been coaching for a number of years, and I can't tell you how many times you brought all the team up here and taken advantage of that.
Yeah, this jersey over here over my shoulder was one of my more fun years, and we had a great team and been blessed to be able to be part of youth athletics and raising Braden here in Alex City and watching him grow into what he's grown into right now, almost bigger than I am. And then now Brindley's coming up, and Lord, she wants to do everything. She wants to do gymnastics. She wants to dance. She was over there swinging last night when we were at the cage, hitting the ball off the tee. And I want to play softball. I want to do that. I said, you're going to have to pick 4 things. I said, we can't play 10. We can't do 10s. You're going to have to pick which ones you want. But seriously, no, it's a lot of fun. And, that's the memories that 20, 30 years down the line, we'll both remember. It doesn't matter how good you are in the sport. It's the time that you have with your kids.
The Alexander City Parks and Rec I can't commend them enough over the last several years, and the increase in numbers, the increase in participation, not only from the kids, but from the parents and from the entire community. You can talk about the new soccer complex and all that's going to be brought with that, a number of different tournaments. It's amazing. It's night and day, really. And I tell you, I just commend them. ACPR.me is their website. You can check them out. They keep you up to date with all the things that are happening there. But you've been in the midst of it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm totally excited about it because the city and the Parks and Rec with Sonny and the Sportz Foundation, we'll talk about them here in just a little bit, all in conjunction have really, really improved athletics in this community over the last 5 years. And that you got to show a community needs to show commitment to things before it'll grow. And this community has. The administration, the council have gotten behind it. You got to have them behind it if you're going to build a new complex, and they did. I mean, look at our soccer program right now, boys and girls at Benjamin Russell. I mean, there's a lot of people in the state feel like Benjamin Russell might win the state championship this year in boys soccer. I mean, and this isn't just the first year they've been good. Man, we've been good in soccer for 15 years around here, both girls and boys. So excited about that, excited about the numbers going up in all the sports. I had my first taste of youth football this year, and it was so much fun. I love baseball, but, man, coaching in that and being in football and watching your kid out there, and not just your own kid, but watching the other kids, man, and kind of looking to the future and saying, man, I can't wait to see what he's going to do in 5 years when he gets up to Benjamin Russell or whatever. So, man, just be involved in so much stuff. And, Randy, you were such an integral part of starting the Sportz Foundation several years ago, and just to see what that's been able to do with the scholarships that we offer over at Benjamin Russell now, and the equipment that we've been able to provide for the football teams, and the mats we've been able to help the wrestling program purchase, and the things we've been able to do for the gymnastics programs here in this city, and just every little thing that we've touched. I mean, a lot of people may not realize how much we've been able, such a small volunteer organization has been able to do, and what an impact it's been able to have. The equipment, Sonny Wilson, if he were up here, he'd tell you we have the best football helmets of any youth group in the state. I mean, they come to our place and they go, y'all are using those helmets, and they're jealous. I mean, because even in some of these places that we think, oh man, they just got money oozing, we got better equipment. Our kids are playing with the top line shoulder pads. They're playing with the top line helmets. That's encouraging. That's a morale boost. Why would you not want to be part of that? And he talked about that. And this coming up first week of April is a huge week for the Sportz Foundation. We got our golf tournament in conjunction with Central Alabama Community College on April Fool's Day. It's not April Fool's tournament. We want you to be part of it out there, and want you to have a team in it. And it's at Willow Point, and we're hoping the good Lord will dial up great weather for us. And then on Saturday, we're going to have our second annual fishing tournament, Sportz Foundation fishing tournament. And we had 41 boats in it the first year, and we're looking to have more than that. Jim Hardy's going to come and be our weighmaster, and is going to send boats off for us. And he does such a tremendous job with the Outdoor Friends Forever group that he put together several years ago to take disabled children out into the outdoors to hunt and fish. Man, I can't commend him enough, and embracing his disability that was caused from a hunting accident, and not letting it hold him back, saying, look, I'm going to show everybody you can do what you set your mind to. Jim's such an inspiration to everybody out there, and is a good friend of both of ours, and just proud of what he's doing. But he'll be down there, and it's a guaranteed $1,500 first prize for that. Then 2 weeks later, his tournament, the Outdoor Friends Forever tournament, will be back at Wind Creek, guaranteed huge $10,000 payback through 20 places. So the $10,000, I think first prize is $2,500 for his tournament. But I mean, they'll pay through 20 places for that tournament. Randy, so much good's going on around here.
Definitely is. Up against another break. Quick note, as my brother brings this up here, 2 more coaches needed for the 5- and 6-year-old T-ball. Also, all the leagues, if you're interested and you're wanting to be part, even if you don't have kids, able to do that. And I'm so glad that I was talked into it by my good friend Nick Grogan. To come out and coach a few years back, because I don't feel so bad about it once my own gets up there.
No.
At least I have an idea of what to do, and I don't think I would if I wouldn't have been able to come back and do that several years back. But, again, if you're interested, if you're a parent out there, if you've done it before and you want to get back involved, make sure to contact the Parks and Rec, 329-6736.
And let me say one more thing about that before we go to that break. If you don't have any clue about it, if you want to step up and help, do that, because the other coaches in the league, everybody wants to win, but at the end of the day, we want to see all the kids be successful. They're going to help you out. They're going to help you. I've had coaches come up to me my first year, say, "Hey, look, I've been in your shoes. Let me tell you what I did." He said, "I got my brains beat out 4 or 5 times. I don't want to see it happen to you. You try this," and it works. So we're all there to help each other.
We'll go ahead and take another break. Come on out to JR Sports Bar and Grill. Have a great lunch. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
The economy over the years.
Come back to y'all in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown. Got about 4 more minutes left here on the program. Appreciate all of you that have called in and been a part of the program today. Brett, to say that we've got an active week this next week would be an understatement, but we really do enjoy it. 6 days. Normally it's been 5 days, with the finals, the semifinals and the finals on the basketball side coming up. Moved into 6 days as they add another classification, 56 games. It's going to be a marathon, but you can tune in to each and every one of the games on the HSA radio network. We'll be doing the broadcast, be the only play-by-play going on for the semifinal events that you can pull up online. I think it's NFHS is the national group that we'll be working with on that, and we're looking forward to it. Always great basketball.
Yeah, I'll blink and I'll be right up here again this time next week. That's how that week right there is the closest to walking into a casino and not knowing what time of the day it is, not knowing if there's a tornado going on outside, if it's snowing. Well, you have no idea. You walk in at dark, you leave at dark. I mean, that's just how it is up there. And but we do. We laugh about it because it is a marathon, and we've got such great crews, and we see such tremendous games, and get a chance to see guys like DeMarcus Cousins and Eric Bledsoe play against one another and move on to play at Kentucky, and now both playing in the NBA. You get to see those guys play at high school and compete against each other. So, who's going to be the next DeMarcus Cousins or Eric Bledsoe? Next Chuck Person. Who's going to be those guys? We look forward to.
Or what is going to be the next game that you never forget? And we'll close out the program today, but I will never forget Winona coming from 25 behind in about 3 or 4 minutes. And they made up a 25-point deficit, and no kidding, 3 or 4 minutes, and won their first of 3 consecutive state championships. And this was before you saw the guy that moved on, Durania Wilson, that's moved on. He was a sophomore. He was part of the team, but he wasn't the main cog. Justin Coleman wasn't even playing. He wasn't even really getting on the court at that time. But closed out, I got about 30 seconds. That was unbelievable. You were doing play-by-play. I was doing color.
and had totally written that game off. We were like, man, if this thing will just hurry up, we can get on out of here before traffic, and we can get home at a decent – because that was the last game we're going to get out of there. And then all of a sudden it became a game. And then they I believe, if I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, a dunk put Winona over, finally gave them the lead, a dunk, and that place exploded. And I said, that's it. I said, they have come back, and we have witnessed the biggest comeback in state finals history right here. We called the game.
It was unbelievable. So make sure to tune in. HSARadionetwork.com is our website. You can get a list of the games, a list of who will be calling each of those games as well. So for Brett Pritchard, I'm Randy Lee saying come on out to JR's. Have a great lunch. We really appreciate all of you tuning in here today on the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown.
You informed. Here's your 20-minute weather guarantee.